In this presentation, I'm going to look at probability tables and look at how to answer questions that would commonly be associated with probability tables. Now, here's the context. I've actually dealt with this in a separate presentation, so I'm not going to dwell too much in it, but I'll just read it out again. Research was carried out on the number of flights leaving a particular airport last year. Of 170 flights that departed on a particular day, 107 flights were to Europe. Of these 170 flights, 36 were delayed, and of the 36 delayed flights, 12 were to destinations outside Europe. So, what we had to do was to construct a frequency table, and then from that construct the probability table. So it's essentially using the information I was given there, just that I just called out there previously, just to sort of construct this table here and just to sort of determine the values that we need to populate this table. That's the frequency table. What I did to construct the probability table is to divide each of those numbers by the grand total and then just express it as a percentage. So those are the probability values. Now let's look at the questions. So I'm just going to scroll down again. Using the probability table, answer the following questions. For a randomly chosen flight departing from this airport, what is the probability that it departs on time? And what is the probability that it departs with a delay and is a flight outside Europe? So just an important point there, just to start off with. And it's not. So this is an and question. So that's an important distinction for later on. Is it and or is it or? The first question is again, what is the probability that the flight leaves on time? So the answer to that is 78.82. Okay, it's that value there. The answer to the second question is that it departs late, it's a delayed flight, and that it is going outside of Europe. So the answer to that one there is 7.06%. Okay. So the third question is what is the probability it departs on time or is a flight outside Europe? So it actually has to depart on time or outside Europe or both. So let's go back to the table now here for a second. So the probability that it departs on time is 78.82. Now, but that's not what we're particularly interested in. It is on time, so this one and this one, or going outside of Europe. So we actually would include this cell here as well. So it is the sum of those cells there. So it is 48.82 plus 30% plus 7.06. That would give us 85.88%. Okay, so that's the answer to that for part C. So let's go look at part D now. Given that it departs on time, it departs on time given that you know it's a flight within Europe. We're going to imply a very different tack here. So 107 flights depart from Europe, or are flights within Europe, and of those 83 will depart on time. So what we're going to do is express this as a percentage, and we're just going to express that as a percentage, so that's by 100%, and that gives us 77.57%. Okay. So let's look at the last question here now. So given that you know it departs on time, what is the probability that it is a flight within Europe? So 134 flights will depart on time. Okay. And of those 134 flights, 83 will be to within Europe. So the answer is 83 out of the 134 flights. We'll express that as a percentage, and the answer is 61.94%. Okay. Now, there are other ways of tackling parts D and E. I'm just sort of using the values from the table. There are also other approaches that you can take that are just as good. That ends our presentation. Thank you.